Welcome to Yeshiva Daf.
You got a week and a day.
Shir is sponsored by Nishma Sam Yaakov Shalom Abasitzchok. We're holding in Horayos Daf Ches, and starting from the first line on the top of the Amud. Says the Gemara, Shavim Shein Mevi Oshel Toli. Now, just to point out that as many of the Farshim question it, it's the Beersheva here, and others, that the Mishnah and the Gemara here, the Mishnah seems to repeat itself. It's repeating itself multiple times. And it's a kushya. The question answer is that the Mishnah gave us a rule and it went through all the details again. But it is repeating itself. So the Gemara says, Shavi Shein Mevi Oshel Toli, Minolam. How do we know this Mevi Oshel Toli? Dichtiv v'chipur olav ha'kohen al shegigosoi asher shogag. Rabbi Sovar, Mishekol Chetoi Bishgogo. Yechezkel Shein Kol Chetoi Bishgogo LeBelam Dover. Shegigosoi asher shogag means it needs to be the only thing, the determining factor is shogag as a shogag. It was a shogag, it was a mistake. But now that there was Horayos Dover, now there was halach. Midi kol ksiv. Does it say the word kol? It says going in. Tivken nichtov al shegigosoi. Lama li asher shogag. Just say he did a shogag. It was a shor shogag. The pasuk is emphasizing. It says shgoga that was done because of the shgoga only. Hashkavan shadika kol chetoi b'shgoga. It's all the chetoi b'shgoga. Yotzu Mashiach she'ein kol chetoi b'shgoga. Mashiach needs to have a Horayos Dover, has to have a psak. Those kochavim. V'lo b'shar mitzvos. El ba'alem dover b'shgoga is ma'is. Have to have elem dover. V'rabonon mishichetoi b'shgoga. Yotzu Mashiach she'ein chetoi b'shgoga. Meaning we're in the Mashiach, he needs to have psak. V'lo b'alem kochavim. V'lo b'shar mitzvos. Because of this means we have a machlekes. El ba'alem dover b'shgoga is ma'is. So the question we going, the reason why the parenthesis is here, the child, you're going into the machlekes, if you need to have elam dover or not, it's not to get the Ikar Indian, so that's why you have the parenthesis. We're not going out to the machlekes, just pointing it out that it needs to be someone who has to have psak, and that's the Kohen Mashiach that has a psak. She saw the other Chaim on Chumash, and in this parasha it says, what shot? The Kohen Mashiach doesn't need to have if he needs to have a Horayos Dover, so a psak halacha. But if he just made a mistake, the mistake ate the wrong meat, what's the din? Potter. There's no korban at all. Why? So what Horayos seems to say, if I understand correctly, he says like this: the Kohen Gadol represents Am Yisrael, so he has the schus of Am Yisrael. He made mistakes. His personal mistake is nothing regarding what he represents. He represents all Am Yisrael. So he has some personal mistakes. You ignore it. What does he represent of Am Yisrael? He's the moyach. He's the head. So his seichel is what leads Am Yisrael. When he makes a mistake in his seichel, that's a problem. So he paskins halakha, so it means there's a problem in the seichel. Then you say that is chayav, because that's what he presents all the Am Yisrael. But in his personal mindset, he has such a schus at tzibur that takes away that small mice that he does on his own. That's what it's not. And then it must be why the king is different, because the king does bring a shgoga. So and maybe that a little bit more in the shomach shava on the daf in the previous daf. But it's not again. This sugi that Horayos says this issue. It doesn't speak about. It doesn't come to explain the nosah. It just comes to explain the Kohen Mashiach. Says the Mishnah. In Beizin Chayovim at Shiyoru B'Dovo Shezdonekoris V'Shgogo Chatas. The more quoted this end of the previous daf that Beizin Chayav only on a mitzvah, that B'Mezi Chayav Koris and B'Shegi Chayav Chatos, and if not, there's no such thing as Zoraz Beizin. It has to be that type of mitzvah. V'Chen Mashiach, similarly by Kohen Mashiach. V'Loi B'Meskechovim at Shiyoru B'Dovo Shezdonekoris V'Shgogo Chatos. But with the Zorah is the same thing. It needs to be Horayos, something you have a Koris Chatos, not things that are not. And this we saw the Gemara Le'el. The Gemara said that this, even though it doesn't say the end of the Mishnah of V'chen Mashiach, but it means V'chen Mashiach. Says the Gemara, Minolam. How do we know that? Tanya. Rabbi Omer Neymar Kan Aleo V'Nemar Loholon Aleo. So it says in the pasuk regarding when Am Yisrael does a chait, has v'noida hachatos shechotu aleo. And then it says aleo regarding achos isha legalus evosa aleo. So it says aleo as well. Malo and dovish is doing a courage go the chatos. So we speak about Horayos. Horayos bezod his car is b'meshegi is a chatos. Hakan dovish is doing a courage go the chatos. So we're very good. Ashkelon tzibur Mashiach min olam. How do we know Mashiach? How do we know the Kohen Mashiach is the same din? So now we go back to yesterday's daf. Losh Vasam. The words Losh Vasam is the limud, the Mashiach, the Kohen Mashiach has to be exactly the same like a tzibur. Hay Mashiach tzibur. Nosi. What about a Nosi? Nosi is the king. How do you know that the king you also have a din of they has to have chatos and zdoin akaris? Yol mitzvahs mitzvahs. K'tiv b'gabei Nosi v'osu achad v'kol mitzvah Hashem. K'tiv b'tzibur v'osu achad v'kol mitzvahs. Matzibu dovish zdoin akaris shgogel chatos. Av Nosi dovish zdoin akaris shgogel chatos. So you learn zeh shavah for mitzvahs. Yochid. How do you know by Yochid that the din of the korban chatos is in these cases? That's the next parsha. If you look in Chumash, there's maybe Kedai very much to see it inside. The Sefer Vayikra, begin Sefer Vayikra, Perek Dalet, the Torah goes on to say, "Taper bnei Yisrael never kish techto b'shgol k'utzes Hashem shel taseno ve'asod machas meino im hakoyin HaMashiach yechto." So that's when we get the Perek Dalet. We mentioned you have a mistake. What's the mistake? Koyin Mashiach. That's the first parsha. Then it says, the next parsha, V'im kol adas Yisrael yishgu. That's how you're based. That's the next thing. Then the third one is Asher Nosi Yechto. That's the king. Nosi. Now the next one is the Nefesh Akas Tishka V'Gogo. Talk about a regular person. So that's when you have the Ve'im. The last one is Motachtam Elyon. All last three of them, Kohen Mashiach, Beis Din, and Nosi, we just said, has to be something which is doing the chorus. Shgogo Sochatos. So here the same thing.
It's interesting that the Yachad is the last parsha. You would think that the Yachad would be
right.
the first parsha.
Right. Good Harry. Okay. Good. So says the Gemara.
All other cases are just like, they're not like...
They're the special cases. Right, 100%. So he says, also over the Zohar, how do we know about Kachovim in the same din? Where the psukim of this Kachovim? In which parsha? Where's this Kachovim? Parsha Shlach. Parsha Shlach. It's really a pele. So I have to think about why is it there. It's Parsha Shlach is saved by Midbar. But Midbar has nothing to do with Kurbanos. Kurbanos belong to Ve'ikra. It says over there after Chitim Meraglim we bring the idea of the Zohar. Okay. The Torah about the fish because it has its own halach, its own parsha. Chol Yuchayov Yafil Dover Shames during the chorus. V'she goes to Chatos. Maybe you'll chayav in any type of the Zohar. Imarkan me'ein not lo'olamein. That's more already mentioned a few times. Ksera Shova. Ma lo'olam Dover Shtoy Chorus. She goes to Chatos. And Kan Dover Shtoy Chorus goes to Chatos. You learn from each other. Says the Gemara, Ashkechon, Tzibur, Yochid, Nosi, Mashiach, Minolan also has to be only these times they have chorus. I'm going to call me Nefesh Achas, the Nefesh Achas which we mentioned already before. Echad Nosi, Echad Yochid, Echad Nosi, Echad Mashiach. Nefesh Achas is one. The one refers to everyone. Kulam Bechla Nefesh Achasem. V'im Atachtu Me'elun, because it says V'im Nefesh, you learn from the Tzibur.
This is a different Nefesh.
Yes, that's the one Pasha Shlach.
Right, this one is Shlach.
Yeah. So all these drushes is good. If a Leo is extra for Gzir Shov by Horayos. They darshan something regarding in Mesechus Yivomis, Horayos, the tzaros of Horayos. We learned there's something else. Leo, if you remember remind us a little bit of the concept of tzaros that we have, that you learn from the word Aleo. Dovish is during the chorus, how do they know these are the mitzvahs to have a rebezim? Now, if Kalemi Ratni Le Bishua Bar Levi Lebrei, Shuba Levi taught his son, Torah Achas Yelachem Lo Yisi B'Shgogo, V'Hanevesh Etase B'Yad Romo. So it says in Shlach, Torah Achas Yelachem Lo Yisi B'Shgogo. Right? And not Shlach, but it will be Torah Achas. V'Hanevesh Etase B'Yad Romo. Yad Romo means in a strong way, in a rebellion way, that's Avodah Zarah. So we learn from Avodah Zarah. It's a hekesh Avodah Zarah. Now we know in Pasha Shlach, we have a hekesh. Says the Ashkechan Yochid Nosiu Mashiach, because they were mentioned Avodah Zarah mitzvahs. Tzibur minolan, because there it says la nefesh. It's one. La nefesh. Nefesh oyso. How do you know the tzibur? Yolif el yomitachto. Oh, so according to Rabbanon, you learn once you know the Yachid, it teaches you to the tzibur which comes before that. Before we said tachto mi elyon, according to Rabbi, now we're learning el mitachto. The Rabbi had to be sure of my ovile. What is it going to do with the hekesh of Shubal mentioned? And we did find that the Torah differentiates between the tzibur and individuals. In what case? Tzibur means like a group and individuals. Rabbi B'Saif, in the case of what? Iranidachas. You have Iranidachas, so you have a whole tzibur doing over the Zarah. How do they die? With Saif. What do you do with the money of Iranidachas? To burn it, to get rid of it. Yechidim b'skilo, but individuals are with what skilo when they do over the Zarah. Umabayna palot. What happens to the money of the Achid? You don't burn the money. Yechol nachloi b'korban say maybe the korbanos will have different halachas. Talmud loimad Torah achas. Could it be they will have different korbanos? Talmud loimad Torah achas has to be the same korban that you bring for the individual who does Avodah Zarah, you bring for the city that does Avodah Zarah. Now, what was the Hav in the Gemara? This is very strange. If you remember this, we had this also in Yevamah. It's like, what was the Hav in the Gemara? That maybe it's unique. Rabbim that do Avodah Zarah, like here in Nachas, it's unique. You kill them beside, you burn everything they have, so maybe you have a unique korban. So the Gemara now tries to say, which korban did we want to give them which is unique? Has to be special. Of course, the Torah told you they're the same. But if the Torah would not tell me they're the same, wouldn't say Torah achas, we would say the korbanos are different. My nice, which korbanos should you bring? If you bring par, that's the korban that they bring when they do over the Zarah. Tzibur b'shar mitzvahs hu the maisu. Yeah, the tzibur brings par and other mitzvahs. Par yom dosh tzibur. And the word that said that's not unique anymore. Now again, of course, why is the word so sure it's unique? Maybe it means it's different than an individual. That's all over here. So the word understood that if we talk about something special, you burn all their money, it has to be unique but korbanos as well. Okay, let's bring par and seir. That's what the tzibur brings when they are doing over the Zarah. When the basic paskins to do over the Zarah. Nasi say maybe just bring a goat. Nasi b'shar mitzvahs with the mice. That's what the king brings. Nasi say a female goat. Yachin nam yainu korban. That's the korban of individual. Says the Gemara. So what? Which korban should they bring? Says the Gemara. Yitzich. Sagda dechamin tzibur ma'isi par lo'ilo v'seir lechatos. Tzibur brings a par and a seir. Hani nasi ipcho. Maybe they'll bring the opposite. Par lechatos soy lo'ilo. Par and seir, but just the opposite order. Inami tzorich ve'in lo takona. Meaning he needs ve'in lo takona. They're not going to have a solution. Kavash one. So just here, this is in the Pashup Shah the Gemara. This is the Chorni put down over here. You see from the Gemara something very interesting. The Gemara understands that if how do you send this Gemara? The Gemara is like trying to figure out, to try to find a korban. I'll find you a korban. Tell them to bring a bird. Have to bring a bird. Like, well, why? That's what you're trying to find. And you want to be different. When the Torah is giving you some kind of an indication, you have to change it, you have to go to the extreme. Because The Torah tells you, the Torah doesn't specify. So you need to work within the parameters of the Torah. So the Torah tells you this will be different. I mean, if not, I would say Torah Achas, I would say it to be different. How will it be different? We won't have to say korban. How different should it be? I don't know. The Torah didn't tell me. So I'm assuming it will be different than anything else. So maybe I'll bring a bird. No. You can't make up your own korban. It needs to be something that we found somewhere that we can bring it. So it must be something. If you found it somewhere, it's not unique. But if it's not, if you couldn't find it somewhere, you can't make it up. So Gemara says two answers. Either we found it, but you're just making the opposite, or it's tzorich ve'ein takana. That's the solution. So the kul alam, yes, everybody agrees. Everybody agrees that these psukim are talking about the Zohar when it says Torah Achas. The psukim are talking about the Zohar. My mashma. How do we know that we're talking about the Zohar? That these psukim and we're in Bamidbar talk about the Zohar. Because from there you learn. How do you know? How do you learn the limud that we're talking over here? Because it says Torah Achas here. The psukim that says by that Yeshua ben Levi told the son in Bamidbar Tezvav. The psukim over there speaks about the Zohar, and immediately you learn from there either a hekesh or you learn from there that the Misa is the same. Here is a Pasha Shlach. I apologize because the psukim that we said before, there's two sets of psukim. There's one set of psukim that we mentioned over here, Torah Achas here, that's Pasha Shlach. The psukim that we mentioned before that says the more said before from the noida achatas shechatu aleo. No, not this pasuk. The pasuk that says, sorry. Where's the pasuk that we mentioned before regarding them doing a korban? It's also picked as well. Okay, so it is pasuk. Say there. I thought it was picked ches. But anyway, it says over there that we're talking about the psukim that we have at Pasha Shlach. We say it's over the Zohar. How do you know it's over the Zohar? It says over there, "V'chisishgu v'lo yisasus kol mitzvahs ha'il l'shediber Hashem al Moshe." He didn't do any mitzvahs. How do you know these mitzvahs are over the Zohar? How do you know that? That's what the Gemara is asking. It says the Gemara, "My mashma Amaro v'tim Yeshua ben Levi v'am l'chdi al makor v'chisishgu v'lo yisasus kol mitzvahs ha'il." The pasuk we just mentioned. What's a mitzvah which is kol mitzvahs? If you're aiming, it's over this kachavim. It's over the Zohar. When Hashem spoke to Moshe, Hashem told you through Moshe. Which one is Hashem spoke, but Moshe didn't explain? That's over the Zohar. Why over the Zohar? The first two dibros, who said it? Hashem, and we heard it. So everything Akash Baruch Hu said, but Akash Baruch Hu said through Moshe Rabbeinu, we heard it through Moshe. There's only two things that we heard Akash Baruch Hu talking. Then Moshe Rabbeinu went and explained to us, but we heard Akash Baruch Hu directly, which is Anoich V'lo Yelech. So which pasuk is on the Shediber Hashem? We heard Hashem in Daber. That's unique in that way. It's a Isur v'Dezara Anoich V'lo Yelech. That is that's the this part. The Rabbi Shmuel Tano. Rabbi Shmuel said, in the house of Shmuel they said, we're in Daf Chetzim Beis. Limina Yoyim Shetzivo Hashem v'Halo leDoroisechem. It says in the pasuk there, this is a mitzvah that Akash Baruch Hu, since Akash Baruch Hu is mitzaveh from here on. So the Gemara understands at this stage that this is the first mitzvah. Which is a mitzvah that was said first? Or second? Good question. The first mitzvah of the Zohar. Why? Because that's the first mitzvah that says the Dibros. Says the Gemara, Obviously already had 10 mitzvahs that were said in Maro. And the Machlatik the Shem Yikar says the Gemara, that's not a good answer. Now, interesting enough, the Gemara does not bring first question. The Gemara also, the Rishay point out, don't say, what about mitzvah of Mila? Mila was given to Avraham Avinu. What about the mitzvah of Gidan Noshe? So Toy says over here, because then there was still Bnei Noach. Or Yimele. It could be, that would be the answer of Parsha Chodesh. And before they left Mitzrayim, they're not considered to be Am Yisrael. Only once they left Mitzrayim, they become Am Yisrael. And that's what we started to count from there. That's what was asking for Moro. Because Moro, there's the first mitzvah they got when they left Mitzrayim. So he says, we did get mitzvahs before. Why are you saying it's the first mitzvah? So well, you're right, you have to go to the other answers. They say either because it's we're directly, or because it says Kol Mitzvah Hashem. Now, the fascinating thing we have over here is the following. There is a discussion in the Rishonim, and it's the Shaila how you learn the Rambam. But the Machlekes Rishonim, do we have a mitzvah to believe in Hashem? To believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu exists? The Rambam, the Gimel, what? The Gimel Animamit is that you believe in Hashem. But the discussion that we're sharing, do we have a mitzvah to believe that Hashem exists or not? Now, where would be the mitzvah? What would be the source of the mitzvah to believe that Hashem exists? Where would that be? Where's the source? What does it say in the Torah to believe in Hashem? No? What do we have a mitzvah in the Torah to believe in Hashem? What does it say? What does it have a mitzvah in the Torah? So that we're showing you learn because it says Anoich Hashem Elokecha. Anoich Hashem Elokecha Asher Tisicha V'Eretz Yisrael. That's a mitzvah to believe in Hashem. So some of the Rishonim, I forgot the Mimonia mitzvahs, things that were sag, they bring a raya from our Gemara that Anoich Hashem Elokecha is not a mitzvah. Why? Because the Gemara says that what's the first mitzvah that we had? Not to do over the Zohar, which is loyal, which is an aseret stib, loyal chel loyal macher. So the Gemara, no, we had a few mitzvahs before. Which one? Mitzvahs with Maro. Question. But if you wouldn't have a problem with Maro, I would say the first mitzvah that we got is the mitzvah of over the Zohar. Why is the first mitzvah? First mitzvah is Anoich Hashem Elokecha, to believe in Hashem. Right from here, the Anoich Hashem Elokecha is not a mitzvah.
It's one of the dippers.
It's a dibra, but it's not a mitzvah. That is I forget who's one of the Moinia mitzvahs brings that as a raya. And this is a fascinating discussion to come and understand where is the mitzvah and is it a mitzvah or not a mitzvah? It's not a loshna mitzvah. So that is what to talk about. What?
It's very unique to say that one of the dippers is not a mitzvah.
It's not written to be loshna mitzvah. That's why the Maharah. Doesn't say any tzivui. Lo yelach is a tzivui. Don't have. Shomer ezochim shal zakatra. Kabbos here doesn't say anything. Just says hello. Shalom aleichem. Anoich Hashem Elokecha.
Where it's coming during your mitzvahs, it's not there.
Yes, Rama holds it is. Rama holds, of course, a mitzvah. Yeah, Rama holds is one of the you give him ikrim. That's what I was looking. That's the word I was looking for. You give him ikrim. But other it's a machlekes. Interesting discussion. We'll be able to show more into it. We'll get to there. So the Mishnah. Ein chayovim al eseva lo yisese shemigdosh. They're not chayov. Who? Beis din, boru beis din. On Esav Lo Yiseh Shavim Migdosh. What is Esav Lo Yiseh Shavim Migdosh? That we learned in Maseches Shavuos. Esav Lo Yiseh Shavim Migdosh is Korban Oile V'Yoyrit. It's not a Korban Chatos. It's not a course. It's Korban Oile V'Yoyrit. Ve'im Mivim Hashem Tolui Al Esav Lo Yiseh Shavim Migdosh. In addition, there's no Hashem Tolui on these mitzvahs of Esav Lo Yiseh Shavim Migdosh. Aval Chayovim Al Esav Lo Yiseh Shavim Nido. The Rishonim already pointed out, Tisha Rosh by Richus, reminds us of the Mishnah that we have in Masechet Shavuos. Remember in Masechet Shavuos, the Mishnah equated Migdosh and Nido. They tell you to go in, they tell you not to go out. Remember that? Going in and going out. What is it? So you see it goes together because it's going that same concept of Bio. We have it both, so that's why we put it together. In that case for individuals. What's the mitzvah esav and nido? Froish mina nido. Get away from the nido. What is the mitzvah lo yisas nido? Al tover the nido. So that's where the Gemara Shavuos addressed it. What is the froish when you leave? Is when a person is with his wife and she tells him she was pierced nido, he has to leave, but he can't leave right away. So that's the froish. And you say al tover. That's what the Gemara spoke about. So the Gemara immediately. How do we know that what? How do we know that Tzibul and Michayve, Korban, Be'almo, V'yochid, Ashotoi, Namiloi? How do we know they're not Chayev, a Korban, which was Korban Elu B'yoyred, and Ashotoi in that case? Omar Yitzchak Rav Divi Ne'emar ve'oshom b'chatos uve'oshom tolo. Ve'ne'emar ve'oshom b'tzibur. It says ve'oshom ve'oshom. Ma ve'oshom b'yochid b'chatas kvuo. When it says ve'oshem, right? The lashon is b'chatas kvuo. It says v'nefesh achas techto b'shgogo me'am ha'aretz. V'asoi sachnos Hashem shel daseno ve'oshem. It says the ve'oshem. So there, when it says the word Hashem by Yochid bechatos kvuo, Avashom v'tzibur bechatos kvuo, not chatos oile v'yoyred, not korban oile v'yoyred, that the rich brings more and the poor brings less. It's called oile v'yoyred. We speak regular chatos. Matzi bechatos kvuo, afashut toli namein bo ela sof bechatos kvuo. And now we're learning all from each other because it says v'ashim bechatos u'v'ashom toli. And it says V'asham b'tzibur, so you learn all that show from each other. Amei iachi korban oil v'yored am yachtiv v'yaki yasham la'achas me'ele. Also by oil v'yored it says the word Asham. It says Yasham.
So what do we want to learn to earlier? Because the whole thing is we're trying to exclude these other two from oil. We're saying it only applies to Chatas Kavua. So what's the more asking? It says.
So we're saying how do you know to exclude it? It says Asham there too.
Is that the more asking now? We should now include these others in.
That's what, yeah. Now, so what are you asking?
The whole purpose of the first discussion was to exclude.
But the shaila is always okay. So how are you excluding?
So excluded from the Ashim, and just the wording of the Gemara is a little funny. It says, "Okay, Yachi."
Yachi, I mean, yeah, the word Yachi should be
right to distinguish Oil V'Yor.
Right. So what will be then? Okay, it could be because the Gemara later is going to distinguish between korban oil v'yored. Within korban oil v'yored, there's different types.
Right.
Because there's a culture, it could be some.
The Gemara is saying instead of excluding these and saying they only apply to Chatzis Kavua because we have Ashim by Oil V'Yor, say no, these should also apply.
Right. Okay. So it's a good question. The lashon doesn't sound so right. It says, "Donim Asham min Hashamoy v'noim Asham min Yasham." It's Yasham. It's not exactly Yasham. So what might have kavino about tying the Rabbi Shmuel the Shava Kohen Bakohen so Yeshiva Zoybiya. We learned that I don't care if the lashon is not exact because it says Yeshiva. That's the classic Yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. When it says that the Kohen returns, so there's two lashonis. It says in one place says Shava Kohen, the Kohen will return, and another place says Uva Kohen. Two different words, Shav Uba, but it has the same meaning. So you see, it doesn't have to be the exact same word as long as it's the same context. By the way, this is what could have answered the what? Yeah, but I prefer to do the one which is more exact. That's what the Gemara says usually. Okay. This is already a Naka question. But tu is Migdash Rekachov that it says that's Korban Oil V'Yored. It says V'Oshem. Omar Papa Doni V'Oshem U'Mitzvah Hashem Min V'Oshem U'Mitzvah Hashem. You have to have not only V'Oshem, also Mitzvah Hashem, and that's the Lashon you have. Asa Mitzvah Hashem Ashol Tasena V'Oshem. So I'm looking for that in these words. Omar Shiba Asher Avashim V'Nef V'Oshem V'Nesias Ovoim Min V'Oshem V'Nesias Ovoim. If you're just looking for two things, so say Nesias Ovoim, and by the psukim of Korban Oil V'Yored, it says V'Nosa Avayna, and it says also by the psukim of the Korban Tzibur, it says it. It says V'Ashmu Mitzvah Hashem, and it says so he says. But maybe you should bring this. In other words, if you want to say the two things are exactly the same, so I should say these. So well, Nachman, Rashi brings, which is the last subject for the Mishnah. It says also, you have to have three things. These three. All three. Shmiyaskol means that someone did not testify or he lied. You have to have all three, and that's what Rashi concludes over here. All three things it says, and that's what we learn. So the more basic says, how do you know this? The more says because I have three psukim and not more. That's what we know. That's the one that you darshan and not something else. So again, these dapim are very much into the drushes of the psukim. Just like, how do I know everything? Where do I know it? And this is the rate over here depends on like really into the drushes how you learn the drushes. We'll stop over here and continue from here, Be'ez Hashem, to the Mishnah tomorrow.